Angular2 Pipes. The topics we are going to cover in this presentation include what is a pipe, and there are two different kinds of pipes. Well, actually, functionality wise they are not that much different. Angular provides a built-in pipe, so we're going to actually learn how we can use those built-in pipes, and you can certainly create your own custom pipes. So we're going to see how we can create our own custom pipes as well. And we are going to see how pipes and change detection cycle. Yesterday we learned about one of those life cycle, the interface and method, right? So how they are actually related. And we'll talk about pure and impure pipes. And here, before we talk about what is called the async pipe, we're going to learn promise and observable. Yesterday we covered a little bit on promise, and I told you we're going to actually play around with this pipe and observable in other presentation, and this is the presentation that we are going to work with, promise and observable, and then we're going to actually learn async pipe. So those are kind of related. What is a pipe in Angular 2 application? Pipe is like a pipe in Unix operating system. So a pipe takes in data as input and transforms it to a desired output. So example is like this. The hero's birthday is, suppose this is birthday, contains some data object, and then the pipe notation is vertical bar, and I'm using date pipe, and it will convert this birthday object into the date, some default date format. Pipe can take parameters. So in this case we have amount, which is a number type, then we convert it into currency, and you can specify the particular currency type, like euro or dollar and things like that. And pipe can take multiple parameters. So this is taking a single parameter. In slice, it can take a multiple parameters. So it's slicing this string from the index number 1 up to index number 5. Okay. And pipes can be chained. So we are chaining date pipe and then uppercase, so it will convert this birthday into date, the format, and then it will convert into uppercase. And this example we are using using one parameter for date pipe, and then we are converting into uppercase, and you can just keep going with the chain of other pipes. So built-in pipes. So these are the list of built-in pipes. Date, converting into a date format. Uppercase and lowercase, kind of obvious pipes. Slice is actually slicing a string into the fragment of the string. Currency, percent, JSON, decimal, and async. So let's talk a little bit of these things and let's play around with this. So I have already created the pipe application, and let's actually, I'm gonna just use the app component file, and here let's actually have some kind of string, my string, and I will say JPassion.com. okay, and in template, so I'm gonna just remove this guy, built in pipe, and here we are going to use my string, and let's use the lowercase, okay, and we'll have another one, we'll have uppercase, okay, and let's see what happens. Okay, so we have a lowercase and we have uppercase. Pretty straightforward, right? And let's actually use a slice, and then we can use a slice, and so in this case slice is taking two parameters. By the way, the first one is inclusive and the next parameter is exclusive. So let's try slice. And Control Shift down key is duplicating the line. So here my string, and I'm gonna just use the slice 2, and we are going to use slice. In this case we're gonna uppercase and slice and another parameter 5. Okay, so pretty straightforward. Okay, so it's actually taking a slice of it from the 2, so it's actually having my string, and yeah, so this one is starting from 2 and up to 5. It changed the uppercase. Okay. In this case, you actually, okay, so yeah, my string is JPassion.com, so it's actually taking the from A. Yeah, I was actually wondering whether it is actually converted to lowercase, but that's not, because what we have is in fact the JPassion.com with a J as capital. So this is working fine. All right, so let's talk about the currency. So let's see. Currency. So we'll actually have some value. So we could have value here, my value, my number, and let's say 1 2 3 4 5 6 7, like this. And then we are going to have my number, and we are going to use currency. And let's just use the currency and what happens. And we'll actually have another one with and we are going to have currency with parameter of USD, and let's have currency with euro. Yeah, this is just a string. Okay, so you can actually specify any string of your choice. Okay, save the change, and we should see. Okay, so this is the USD, and euro. So as a default, it's going to take the local operating systems, the locale, and then use it. So in this case, but if you want to actually use a different the currency, you can just certainly specify it. Okay. All right, so now let's take a look at the date. Okay, so let's actually create date. So my date, and let's create a new date object like this. So we have a date object, and then we are going to specify my date, and then let's actually yeah, okay, so without the pipe, let's see what it does. And then we are going to use my date, and this time we are going to use date, the date pipe. Okay, so let's see what happens. Okay, so this is the default. This is what you get. Okay, but if I use the date, the pipe, then it displays kind of a shortened version of the date. Okay, so that's basically what it does. Now, if you want to specify some, let's actually talk about the full date, and you can specify the format like this. Okay, so full date, and let's save it, and we're gonna provide full date. That is the parameter, and let's provide another one, and this time we are going to specify the format. The format we are going to use is basically DDMMYY or something like that. Okay, so if that's the format you want, DD YY month like this, okay, or MM YY, okay. All right, so let's save the change. Okay, so this is the format that we specified, and the full date. Oh, what is that? Full date thing is not. Looks like that didn't work. Oh, full date. Yes, so I have to specify date. Okay, so that works better. So this is a full date, and this is actually with DD, MM, and YY format. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna let you guys to play around with the built-in type. Built-in type up to this. Oh, actually, let me actually show the JSON as well. Then I'll give you guys to play around it. So JSON pipe is basically converts the object into JSON string. So suppose let's actually create an object. So I'm gonna create the maybe person object. So person and person. I'm going to have the key value pair for that object. So I'm going to have a name and is Sang, and comma, next key value pair, age 99, something like that. And if I want to display this person object here, so let's see, if I just display person object, it's going to be just displaying as the JavaScript object, and that might not be that much useful. So in this case, if I use the JSON pipe, it converts it into JSON, the string. So pipe and JSON like this. Let's just have a BL. All right. So let's see what we have. So the first one, it is just a JavaScript object, but if I use a JSON, it's actually displaying the data in JSON format. Okay, so whenever you need to display a JavaScript object, you basically use the JSON pipe. Okay, all right. So I'm going to give you guys about the 5 to 10 minutes to do this built-in pipe exercise. Moving forward. Next topic is custom pipe. So we have worked with built-in pipe. Now let's see how we can create a custom pipe. Creating a custom pipe is pretty simple. Basically, you're gonna create a class with a pipe decorator, and then you're gonna give a name with a name property, and then you also have to implement pipe transform interface, which contains transform method. Transform method take the value, that is the value that you want to transform, and args, those are optional arguments, and those optional arguments are parameters that you can specify with your pipe. Okay, the pipe you have to declare in the application module as well. Okay, so example is like this. Suppose I want to create my own pipe called mySquare, and I create a class called mySquarePipe, and it has to implement pipe transform interface, which means I have to provide the body of transform method, which take a value, and then it takes the arguments, optional arguments, and the return type of that is going to be any. And in this case, basically all I do is just multiply value by value, which is actually creating a square value, right? This is it. Okay. Now, if you're creating a pipe using Angular CLI, all this code will be automatically generated. So the only thing you have to do is basically provide this logic. Okay, and that is basically what we are going to do. Okay, so the pipe is gonna work something like this. If I use my pipe called the mySquare, and and use it inside this the interpolation, then it should return 25. Okay, so we are gonna create our pipe using CLI command. So ng generate, and you say pipe, or just P, and the name of the pipe is my square, something like that. Then it will create 2 files. Okay, so it created my square pipe files and then testing code. Okay, since we are not dealing with the testing at this point, let's take a look at the pipe code. Okay, so here it give a name to the pipe, my square, and this is this is the name that we are going to use in the template. And here it's actually having a value that we want to transform, and these are arguments. And let's not think about the argument for now, right? We'll just assume that this pipe doesn't have any argument, meaning parameters. So here we're gonna just have value times value. Okay. All right. So now let's try to use it. So here, H4 custom pipe. Okay. And here I'm going to use some number 6, and I want to use my pipe, my square. Okay, and let's see whether that works. Okay. It worked. Okay. Actually I expected it doesn't work, so I did not. Let's actually see the modules. Oh, okay, so looks like a module, Angular CLI automatically add this pipe into the declaration. Okay, I thought I have to actually do this one myself. The services you have to do it manually, but pipe, yeah, the Angular CLI does the work for me. Okay, so this is actually something you want to make sure that it's declared inside the declarations in your module. Otherwise, it's not going to actually work. So if I, for example, let's actually try to, I'm going to just comment this guy out, and let's see what happens. Okay. Yeah, then we have an error, and the error says the pipe my square could not be found. Okay, because the application is not notified the presence of the pipe. Okay, so you have to make sure this pipe is declared, just like a component in your application module. Okay, all right, so that's pretty straightforward, isn't it? So that's what we did. Now let's actually see whether we can handle our parameters. So what I want to do is, I have some kind of number, and I use my square, and then we want to multiply 3 times. Okay, so if I say 3, then we want to have a value times value times value 3 times. Okay, if it is 4, then that value will be multiplied by 4. It's not multiplied, but it's squared by 4 times, something like that. Okay, so in this case, what we want to do is we want to check whether it is undefined or undefined, because this is optional. You want to make this one as an optional. So if it is undefined, then means we just return the value. You know what? If it is undefined, then we might just actually have a value times value. It depends on the what the right behavior you want. So I think I probably want to have, if it is not specified, if the parameter is not specified, then we're going to just provide a default value of value times value. Okay. If the number is specified, then we might want to compute like this. So result contains value, and then depending on the number, if it is 3, then yeah, so since we're starting from 0, we are just kind of multiply that value with the result or something like that. Okay, all right, so let's yeah, I'll let you guys actually do this exercise while I'm actually doing it myself. Okay, so that is optional lab. Create a new pipe which performs capitalization of the string. So feel free to Google JavaScript example of capitalizing a string. In fact, there are multiple examples. But if you do not want to search Google, then you can just use this logic. Okay. All right. So I'm gonna actually let you guys do this lab and this lab and this lab. So I'll give you maybe 10 minutes. Okay. Filter custom pipe. Angular 1, meaning AngularJS, used to have a filter. The difference between filter and pipe is for transformation, while filter is selecting a subset from from a collection, so to speak, from the set of items. So filter is kind of a pipe, but it's not the same as a pipe. Pipe, I would say, is a lot bigger than filter. Filter is kind of a pipe, but very narrow sense of pipe. Okay. So filter pipe could receive an array and returns an array after filtering operation. So Angular 2, in fact, removed this filter feature in Angular 1. The reason is because they found that a lot of people are kind of using filter as basically abusing filter, because filter could be pretty expensive operation. So they want to make sure that filter is not being abused. So that's the reason they actually removed the filter. Instead, if you need to have a filter functionality, then you have to create a filter custom pipe. Okay, so that's basically what we're gonna do here. Okay, so the lab is create filter pipe that receives an array of string and argument string. So we want to actually select only the strings that contains that argument string, then returns a string that contains the argument string. Yeah, so we haven't learned the module yet, so we're gonna just create the filter pipe in the same application module. So we are gonna generate ngg pipe myFilter, and we are gonna use this match method of this regular expression. So any string that contains these args will be selected. Okay, and then here, if you take a look at the logic, this is our result array of strings, and then basically we are in a for loop of the value. Value happen to be an array that is being passed to us as in our pipe, and then we are basically calling match method with this logic. And if this is matches, meaning this that string contains this args, and then we are basically adding that item into our result array, and then we actually return result array. So that's basically what we want to do. Okay, so let me just demonstrate that. So here we are going to create a pipe, and I'm going to call it myFilter. And so we have a myFilter, the filter. So here basically what we want to do is here we are going to create the result array, and it's going to be string array type, and let's actually initialize it with the empty string, and then we're going to have a for loop, and of value happen to be an array. So here we are going to compare if item match, and we are going to provide this regular expression, and starting with anything dot star, and then we are going to have this args, and that is the comparison string, and then we can end with anything, so dot star ending. Okay, and if it is successful, meaning the arg is being contained in the particular item, then we're going to actually have a result array, and we're going to just push it into the we push the array item into the result array, and then we basically return. We're going to return result array like this. Okay, all right, so now we have created our filter pipe, and then let's actually use this guy. So here so we are going to have let's actually create an array here, right here. Okay, so here well, instead of because I want to actually add the some values later on. So I'm going to actually have an array. So let's actually create an array in our not module but the app component ts. Okay, so we're going to create an array. So here let's create my array, and let's actually have, and it's going to be string array like this. Okay, and let's actually have Sang and Shin, and about the Sammy, something like that. So let's have my array, and maybe let me actually have Sang1 so that I can actually use SA as the argument. Okay, in that case should return Sang and Sang1, right? Okay, all right, so here we're gonna use my array, and we want to use my filter. Okay, so let's see what happens. Okay, so if it worked, it should actually return oh, looks like nothing happens. So my array, so we have my array and the string array. Oh, I haven't specified the argument, right? Yeah, okay, so I forgot to specify the parameter. Okay, so let's say I just use SA or something, and then it should return true, Sang and Sang1. Okay, good. Oh, there is another one, Sang, Sammy, and Sang1. So it returns 3. So if I say, let's see, if I say sh, about the sh, if I use sh, then should return just 1. Okay, so that worked. Okay, that worked. So what I want to do is, I want to actually have another input element, and we want to actually push new item into this array and see whether this guy is actually in fact the so let's see, yeah, so we'll just sh, and let's have input element, and here we are gonna, well, not the we don't need these things. We are going to have event handler, click, and add item, and oh, now this is from the button. So all we need in this case is we want to actually provide the local template reference. So I'm gonna just say my input, and here we are gonna have a button, and here we're gonna add item, and here we say my input value. So basically what I want to do is, every time this button is clicked, we are going to add this item into my array. Okay, so let's actually go to the class add item. So we'll have add item, and it should actually receive item, and this is typically, yeah, this is string type. So if you want to actually specify the type, feel free to do so. And here basically we are going to say this my array, and push an item. All right, so let's see what happens. Okay, so we have I have sh, so let's actually have another one, shin1. Okay, all right, so we should have initially two items, shin and shin1, to be displayed. Okay, let's actually have this one with the and I want to actually have this one. Actually, I want to have this one at the bottom. Okay. 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 Yeah. So add item. Okay, so now it's actually displaying Shin and Shin 1. Now let's try to add Shin 2 and see whether that works. Yeah, it didn't work. Somehow, even if I added an item to my array, if you actually see my array, so let's actually display my array. My array. My array is being updated. So if so this is my array, right? Let me just increase the font size a bit. So if I add Shin2, you can see Shin2 is being added to the array, but the filter is not really, the filter pipe is not really detecting it. Okay, so Shin22 is adding it, but this filter simply doesn't work. Okay, so we'll talk about why that is the case. Alright, so I'm gonna let you create this filter pipe up to the point that I have demonstrated. Okay. So as I demonstrated, even though we were adding a new item into array, like this, the pipe does not detect the fact that something has been added to the array. So pipe is not being applied on the right time. Actually it doesn't get applied even though item is added to the array. So why that is the case, and how we can make this pipe to be detecting the fact that something has been added to the array. So that's the next topic. So pipes and change detection. So change detection is basically when an item is added to the array or something like that, or something. So we're going to talk about that here. So Angular looks for changes to data-bound values through a change detection process that runs every important JavaScript event. Those events include keystroke and the mouse move, timer tick, and server response and things like that. But running this detection process is pretty expensive. So Angular tried to minimize the change detection cost as little as possible. So for the pipe, so Angular picks a simpler, faster change detection algorithm when a pipe is used as a default. So pipe does not get applied, even if this the JavaScript event happens. Okay. So the reason is the pipe is set as a pure by default. Again, when the pipe is set as a default pure, that means this pipe is not going to be participating in change detection cycle. Okay, if you want to make your pipe to participate in this change detection cycle, then you have to make this pipe to be impure. And in order to make that impure, we are going to have pure property, and then you set it to false. Okay, so let's actually change our pipe, and we are gonna add the pure property. We're gonna say false. Okay, now let's see how things work. Now if you make it impure, meaning pure property set to false, then this pipe will be participating in change detection cycle. So in this case, when you add an item to, when the in this case something keystroke is added, something like that, the keyboard stroke and things like that. So here I'm going to add Shin5. Okay, and now you can see the pipe is now detecting, pipe is participating in the change detection cycle and gets applied again. Okay, 45. Yeah, so you can see pipe is being applied. Okay, if it's not the XYZ, then of course it's not gonna it added to the array, but pipe is not gonna display it. So that is basically pure and impure pipe. Okay. All right, so I'm going to give you guys a few minutes to do this pure and impure pipe exercise. Okay, yesterday we talked about the promise, and promise is introduced in ECMA, the JavaScript version 6, ES6. And so we're going to actually talk about the promise and observable before we learn async pipe. So what is promise? Promise object is used for asynchronous operation. So you basically invoke async operation and you don't know when the data will be received from, let's say, remote server, something like that. So that certainly need to be performed in asynchronous fashion. So promise lets you represent that async operation. So in this case, we create a promise object which receive a string type, okay? And basically it will return promise object, and later on you can call then method, and in this case when the data is received, this then, which take the function object, we are using fat arrow, the data that is received, we can actually process it. In this case we're going to just save it into async data so that we can display it. If there is an error, then we can actually catch it. Okay, so when you create the promise object, basically you can pass resolve and reject function. These are function object, okay, and you can actually call this function later on. So in this case, as an example, we are using set timeout method, which receives some kind of function object and the timeout period. Inside a function object, we are basically in the set timeout is basically this function object is going to get invoked after 3 seconds, and when this function is invoked, we are basically calling resolve function, and basically what it does is that it will resolve. What that means is that at that point, we're gonna just satisfy that promise. Okay, so promise is something like the promise that something will happen in the future. Okay, so this is promise. So as I said, I was not able to actually build and run promise in the standalone the ECMA 6 Java application, the ECMA 6 JavaScript application, but I can actually run this application inside Angular2 application. So that's what we're going to do. So we are going to have in here app component. Let's say we have some kind of the event method. So on click method. Inside, we are going to actually create the promise. Let promise object, and it's going to actually return. It's a return value of this is a promise object. So we're going to actually create the promise, and the generic type. Basically the data that will be received is going to be in the string type. So you're going to actually use the generic, and it will receive function, and inside the function it will receive resolve and reject function object. Okay, and we are using fat arrow, and here we can invoke some kind of operation that calls resolve. So just to simulate the async operation, we are going to just use the set timeout in this simple application. Okay, so set timeout, and set timeout should actually have another function object. So in this case, function object is going to receive nothing, and then when the timeout happens, then we're going to actually use this resolve function, just passing the data that will be returned. So I'm going to just say JPassion.com, and the timeout is going to be, let's say, 3000. Okay, the milliseconds, so it's 3 seconds. So promise object is representing something will happen in the future. In this case, it will happen in 3 seconds. So when the resolve function is invoked with some data, that means this data will be returned in 3 seconds. In this case, we just happen to use the set timeout to simulate the async operation, but this could be an operation that invoke remote REST call and things like that, which we're going to actually learn sometime today. Okay, all right, so now once you got the promise object, then we can actually now get the data by calling the then method. So promise, and we could actually either call then you provide function object the function object is basically receiving the data. So the data, once it is received, let's actually just console log the data for now. Okay, and we also could actually call catch if there is an error, catch, and catch will also receive a function object. The function of object will receive error, and again we are going to console.log, and we'll just display error, something like that. Okay, so we're gonna actually have a button that invoke this on click. So we are gonna go to application here, and let's say H4, and this is the promise exercise, and we're gonna have button click. Oops. And this on click. So generate promise. Okay, so we save the change, and let's see what happens. So we are going to have okay, so we are going to call generate promise. So we click it, and in 3 seconds you can see JPassion.com message is being displayed, because what happens is, if you take a look at the here, in 3 seconds data will be sent, in this case JPassion.com, and then when the data is received, basically we are just displaying it. Okay, so instead of actually displaying in the console, what we want to do is we want to have async data here. So let's say my async data. Okay, so let's say string type maybe. Okay, it could be any type, right? And in this case, instead of actually displaying on the console, we just have this as my async data, and then we are assigning the data into my async data. And what we want to do is we want to just display here, we're going to use interpolation, my async data. Is that correctly spelled? Let's just make sure. I'll just copy this guy and here use it. Okay, so this will appear in 3 seconds. Okay, so let's save the change. So yeah, I want to actually remove some of these things so that we can see in the screen. Okay, so now if I click generate promise, then we should have a JPassion.com being displayed in 3 seconds here. So as you can see here. Okay, so that is a promise. A promise is basically capturing a promise that something will happen in the future. So that something will happen is basically when the result function is being invoked. Okay. Okay, so I am going to give you guys a few minutes to play around with this promise. Okay, so basically I want you to create this logic here. Okay, so you have the event handler, and basically we happen to create the promise object like this, and see how that is being worked out. Okay, all right, so observable is a lot more powerful than a promise. A promise is a single shot. It's basically receiving a single data. But the observable is actually from reactive programming paradigm. In fact, observable is from RX library for composing asynchronous and event-driven programs using observable sequences. So reactive programming, instead of a single data, it could actually send a stream of data. So it's a lot more powerful. Okay. And the type has the language has observable type. Okay, so this is typically what you're going to use in Angular 2. In fact, when you're going to actually learn how to invoke REST calls like a get, post, put, and delete, it returns observable instead of promise. Okay, so I want to actually focus on observable more than the promise. Okay, because observable is something that we're going to use most of the time. Okay, so this is a case that we are creating observable objects. So basically observable, and we create a stream, and then there is a subscriber. Subscriber is going to send some the data hello world 2017 and complete. Yeah, so again, we are not going to use this kind of subscriber API in Angular 2. When we are performing HTTP operation, internally HTTP method will create observable object for you, so you're not going to actually generate this kind of stream yourself. This is just purely for understanding how observable works. Okay, so here we create observable object that create this stream of data. So it will have hello and world and 2017 stream of data, and then we're going to actually call complete. So basically this is a way to generate the stream of data, and then we are going to use a subscribe method. Okay, so in our case of promise, we use the then, right? In observable, we are using subscribe method. Subscribe method will take a 3 function object. The first function object is for receiving data in success case, and the second function object is receiving error. Okay, just like a catch error in promise. Okay, third is when the complete event occurs. The only function object that you have to provide is the first one. The error and complete is optional. Okay, but let's actually try this. So we're gonna actually have so we're gonna actually have another on click. So this time on click observable. Okay, and then we are going to create let my observable, and this should be observable type. Okay. By the way, you have to specify so I have to actually import. Let's actually import it. Control I. Okay, and you can see it is observable. It is imported from RxJS library. Okay. Okay. So and then I am going to I'm going to just have this one, and then my observable is going to receive new actually no, the observable, and we're going to use the create, and then we are going to have we're going to receive a function object which actually take the subscriber as an argument, and then we should be able to call next and complete method for generating a stream of data. Okay, so here we are going to have subscriber, that is the data, and then we are going to have set a method subscriber and next hello, and we basically generate some stream of data hello world, and subscriber next JPassion, and let's have another one. I'll just duplicate, Control Shift page down, and JPassion is great. Okay, and then we are finishing up that stream of data. So subscriber and we just call complete. Okay, so basically we generate a stream of data and then call complete. So I got my observable object. Again, this is basically observing stream of data, and that stream of data could be happening in the future. Okay, so in order to receive the data, we have to actually subscribe it. So I have to say here my observable subscribe, and we, as you can see, it will actually it could actually receive three different let's see, yeah, it could actually receive three different argument. Okay, and the first argument is going to be data handler, so it will receive data, and then so we're gonna just use a console.log data. Okay, that is the that is the only required the parameter. Okay, the error and the complete, those are optional. So this, you can see this error is optional, complete is optional. The first one, the this one is mandatory. So even though the second and third are optional, let's actually provide it. Error, and again we're gonna just display the console console.log error. And the third one is basically a function object which does not receive any argument, and all it does is just the complete. So in this case we'll say console.log, and all we do is that completed, something like that. Okay, so we subscribe it. All right, so that's basically the code. So now we're gonna actually have another button that is gonna invoke on-click observable. So I'm gonna go over here. Let's have another. This is the observable exercise. So we're gonna have I'm gonna just copy this code and move it down, alt page down here. Okay, and the one that we wanna call is on-click observable, and generate catch observable. Okay, all right, so we save all the changes, and let's see what happens. Okay, so catch observable. So you can see hello world, JPassion is great and complete. This stream of data is now being caught by our subscriber and being displayed. Does that make sense? Okay, so I am going to give you guys the 5 minutes to try observable. Okay, so the reason we learned promise and observable is because we need to understand the concepts of those before we learn async pipe. Okay, so what is async pipe? Async pipe returns the latest value it has received. Internally, it actually calls the then operation for promise or subscribe method for observable. Okay, so in our case, we could actually have some kind of async value not filtered with async and then filtered with async, something like this. What it means is that the whatever value that it will be received is gonna be actually received by the pipe itself. Okay, so let me actually tell you what I mean by that. Okay, so the lab is we are going to actually create a promise object called the promise, like this, right? And then we can actually specify this value in our in our template, my async value. If I'm not using async pipe, then this is just the object. This is basically promise object. If I'm using the async pipe like this, then async pipe is going to call the then method to receive the data and then display. All right, so let's actually do this. So in our case, if you take a look at this code over here on click here, right? So we have this is the promise object, right? So let's actually have this promise object is as a promise is promise object is the so instead of let, this is gonna be this. Okay. Oh, no, not like that. Oh, I'm actually looking at this guy. Yeah, this guy. This and this. Okay, so basically let's actually display this promise object here. So in here we are gonna actually so let's just say h4 async pipe, and if I display promise object, okay, and then let's actually display promise and using async, build async pipe. So here in this case, async pipe. So this is a built-in pipe from Angular. So this one will just, it will be the type of the promise object. So this is an object, but in this case, it will actually, this async is performing the operation of then, when the data is received, it will display the data. All right, so let's actually save the change and see how things work. Yeah, actually we want to have this one just above the observable because we are using promise, right? Okay, save the change. Okay, so generate promise. So first, you see this object gets actually displayed right away, right? Because that is representing promise object. In 3 seconds, however, because you are using async operation, this promise object is used to call the then method, and the data will be displayed. Okay, so let's actually try one more time. So when I call generate promise button, then here the promise object gets displayed right away. Now in 3 seconds, the data that is received will be displayed. Okay, so that is async pipe. All right. Okay, so I'm going to give you a few minutes to try async pipe, and then we are going to move on to the next topic.